South Africa will remember that on the 11th and 12th of April, parts of KwaZulu-Natal received 200 to 400 millimeters of rainfall. The heavy rainfall, flooding, have also been experienced in the Eastern Cape. You will remember that the president, having addressed the country, no less than 443 people lost their lives. No less than 4,000 houses being destroyed. No less than 8,000 being partially damaged. And a huge infrastructure affected. Against this, the cabinet set on Sunday to evaluate the situation, and it was elevated to a state of national disaster. As I address you now, ladies and gentlemen, we're meeting you here to receive unpacking of the entire presentation by the president, by the minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who leads the intervention nationally in dealing with this situation. If I can now be allowed to call upon Minister Nkosazana Zuma to actually talk to the nation and unpack the entire situation with regard to where the country is going and what the government is up to. Minister?
Thank you very much, Minister. And good morning to all the members of the media and all the compatriots who are listening to this. Let me thank you for giving us this opportunity to brief on what the president has said. Of course, we are going to elaborate not so much on the different sectors, because there will be subsequent briefings done by the ministers on the different areas that they'll be working on. But let me just start by emphasizing the fact that the rain that we had on that day was more than the rain we normally get. If we take Durban, we don't even get that rain in a month. We get that rain in about 4 months, but we got it in 1 day, which will explain why the flood has created so much havoc of destruction, both in terms of people's homes, people's lives, and also infrastructure. And we would like to extend our condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones, but also comfort them, but also give them hope that for those who haven't found their loved ones, that the government is doing all it can to assist so that the loved ones are found and they can be put to rest in dignity. Let me also say that as South Africans, we have really rallied around all those who have been affected. We really would like to express our appreciation to all the individuals, to the donors, to the private sector, companies, ordinary citizens who have been lending a hand to all those who have been affected, either through losing their loved ones or losing their homes. So we hope that as we deal with this devastation, that spirit of ubunye and ubuntu will continue. Ebatuphile.
Minister, you are muted. Or am I the only one who's not hearing you?
Oh, okay. Let me start afresh. I had unmuted
Yes,
myself.
I can hear you now. I
I had unmuted myself, so I don't know. Maybe I got muted. Okay.
All right.
I was just saying thank you very much to the members of the media and all the South Africans who are listening to this briefing. And we are grateful for this opportunity. We are going to be talking more about what it means, this state of national disaster, rather than talking about the different sectors and what they are doing and going to do, because there will be a cluster briefings that will unpack all that. But we want to just say that these floods are the worst floods we've ever seen in living memory, as the Premier said, because over 24 hours, we had more than between 300 and 400 millimeters of rain. In Durban, for instance, in February, which is the wettest month, we normally get about 102 millimeters of rain in the whole month. And that's the wettest month. And April is not even the wettest month, but that's what happened. But this also tells us that climate change is here with us now, because the scientists have been telling us that the eastern part of the country is going to be wetter and will have frequent floods. The western part of the country is going to be drier and will have frequent droughts. And maybe we thought it's something that's still in a distant future. But if we look at what has happened just over the last 5 years in KZN, we had floods in 2018, we had floods in 2020, and we have floods now in 2022. And of course, each flood gets worse than the previous one. So clearly, climate change is with us, and we are beginning to feel the effects of that. I'd like to extend our condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones, and hope that those that have not been found, who are still missing, will be found, because it is very important for us to lay our loved ones to rest and know where they are resting. So we hope that they will be found. The government is doing all it can to assist in finding those who are still missing. These floods have left a trail of destruction, destroying homes, some of the homes completely destroyed, about 4,000 of them, and some partially destroyed, but leaving more than 40,000 people homeless for now, because they can't stay in their homes. And some of them have lost everything because they could only escape with what they had on them. So we are also very grateful to all the South Africans who have rallied to comfort, to support, to give a helping hand to all those who needed it, who still need it. And we are very encouraged to see that Spirit Sobuntu, Batupili, is still prevailing. We'd like to thank the individual citizens, the donors, the NGOs, the private sector, companies, and of course the officials, the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, all the sectors of society who have rallied to comfort those. Now, the reason that we went into from a provincial disaster to a national state of disaster. First, it's not only KZN that has experienced these floods, though the worst impact is in KZN, whether it's human lives, whether it's destruction of infrastructure, whether it's the economic impact, it's in the KZN, but the Eastern Cape has had floods and we've had loss of life there and also destruction of infrastructure. And other provinces are experiencing heavier rains than normal. So, but also the impact of these floods are well beyond the province. And so it became very important that the national government comes on board. The reclassification from a provincial to a national disaster was then followed by the declaration of the state of national disaster. This allows the declaration, in a way, gives hope and also is a vessel for coordination and rallying the entire nation, the entire government, and also the international support. Primarily, it means that the primary responsibility to coordinate and manage the disaster is now assigned to the national sphere of government. It strengthens the commitment of national government departments to fulfill its role in providing relief, recovery, and rehabilitation to affected communities. But that does not mean that the province and the local government must now relax. No, they must still do what they need to do. It signals that the government as a whole intends to deal with the impact of this severe weather, KZN and Eastern Cape and other provinces, in a holistic manner through an integrated and coordinated approach across the spheres of government and employing the district development model. And you know the district development model says all the three spheres of government must work together in a coordinated and integrated manner. They must use their budgets and have plans that are integrated. So in dealing with this disaster, that is what is going to happen. All the spheres of government be working together. And of course, this also, like in the Tale of Two Cities, and to paraphrase, it's a season of darkness and winter of despair. But at the same time, it is also the season of light and spring and hope, because we have to be hopeful and committed and determined to deal with this. But also, as we build back, we should be building back better. So nobody should build back in the riverbanks and also in floodplains, but also in some of the areas which are just geographically not right for residential areas. So it means as we build back, we must build better. And we must strengthen the institutional arrangements. And this is really to ensure that we assist and protect the public, as the law says, provide relief to the public, protect property, prevent and combat any disruption to life, dealing with the destructive nature and other effects of this disaster. So this has been gazetted, and therefore we will be now working accordingly. And I don't want to waste too much time because the president said a lot yesterday, I'll rather we give you an opportunity to ask questions. But as I conclude, I would like to thank and call on all organs of state in the national, provincial, and local government, the private sector, civil society, to further increase the support to existing structures. This will enable us to implement contingency arrangements and ensure that the measures are put in place effectively deal with the impact of this disaster. We will be responding to the disaster, as I said, through the district development model. This will ensure that the required action is taken within each district to address the immediate needs of those affected. As we continue to work to ensure that all affected persons are safe and that their basic needs are met, national ministers, premiers, MECs, and mayors will also provide regular updates to the nation on interventions being undertaken in managing this disaster. We call on all South Africans to continue working with us as this disaster calls on all of us to play our role. So far, the spirit of solidarity has been heightened, proving that South Africa is a caring nation. I thank you, but I would like to call upon Dr. Tau, who is in charge of the Disaster Management Center, to just say something on the technical issues that relate to the declaration of the national state of disaster. Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Minister. If Dr. Tau can take the platform, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister Ngubele, and good morning to you, ministers and members of the media and all in attendance. My minister has already covered the issues plentifully, but I will reflect on the operational arrangement that we have put in place to enable the implementation of the system as already outlined. As the National Disaster Management Center, we are seized with a responsibility to ensure an integrated and coordinated system of disaster management that involves all role players, including communities. And in the context of this occurrence, the National Disaster Management Center has reinforced the Disaster Operations Center that has since been established during the outbreak of COVID. The Disaster Operations Center will be functioning daily to coordinate reports, but also to ensure that support is given effectively to provinces and municipalities and the district development champions and technical structures as already outlined by our minister. The Disaster Operations Centers numbers will be shared. They are the following: 012-848-4704. The other number is 012-848-4705. For those who might wish to submit requests or correspondences or inquiries via email, the email address is nevcenter@ndmc.gov.za. I repeat, nevcenter@ndmc.gov.za. So how we have structured ourselves, we came up with an architecture of the Disaster Operations Center that we thought will be comprehensive enough to address all the issues relating to infrastructure, humanitarian issues, funding issues, communication, food security, and so on and so forth. As a result, we came up with 8 task teams that will be operational throughout the duration of the the operation. The first task team is called the Health and Medical Services task team. That is led by the Department of Health. The second one is the Humanitarian Relief task team. It's led by the Department of Social Development. The third one is Integrated Flood Risk and Early Warnings. Integrated Flood Risk and Early Warnings is led by the National Disaster Management Center together with the South African Weather Service. The fourth one is the Food and Nutrition task team. It's led by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. The fifth one is the Communications and Community Mobilization task team. It's led by the GCIS, the Government Communication and Information Service. And then the sixth one is Infrastructure Interventions. It's led by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure together with our Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent. The seventh one is Security and Emergency Search and Rescue. It's led by the South African Police Service. And the eighth one is the Funding and Monitoring and Evaluation. It's led by National Treasury together with the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation. These teams are being activated as we speak. They will start to function effectively, and we have come up with a model that will ensure that they are replicated at the provincial and municipal level. Thank you very much. Those are the additions I could make at this stage. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Tau. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard for yourselves condolences being extended to the families, those who lost their loved ones. And the minister has explained the basis of declaring this a national disaster. And again, the minister has explained the other issues that will be confronted with as we intervene, the spatial distortions. And Mr. Tau has explained the coordination infrastructure and task teams involved and the key numbers to be used to coordinate. If members will remember, the president spoke about phases in the intervention of humanitarian relief and making sure that the displacees have access to water, access to food. Those who are stuck somewhere are assessed and rescued and be placed in areas where they will live a normal life, whilst finally a rebuilding program actually will be taking off. Deployment of soldiers have been explained by the president and a number of other institutions. And Dr. Tau, Minister Nkosazana, are leading in these interventions. All other departments will work in unison with a framework that is under their guard. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for interacting with the minister and Dr. Tau. I'm going to look for hands on the reaction portion. I see a hand. I don't see the name. Teto Mahlakwana. That's the name first. The second name? Lunga Simelani. The third name? That's the names we have so far. Can we start with Teto Mahlakwana?
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Teto Mahlakwana at Eyewitness News. My question is simple and to the point. Is there a time frame that Cabinet has discussed around this particular national state of disaster? When does it end? Are we looking at such a date? Thank you.
Thank you very much for such preciseness, Teto. Lunga, take the platform. Okay. Nice one. Where is Lunga? Abongile, Dumako, come in whilst Lunga is getting ready. Can you unmute Abongile?
Thank you so much. Good morning. Ndiyabulela Mhlekazi, Abongile Dumako, SABC News. I wonder if you are in a position yet to quantify the extent of damage that has been caused by the floods. And of course, to reiterate what my colleague Teto Mahlakwana has said, what are some of the time frames that are set for those who want to come forth and assist in this regard? Nkos.
Thank you very much, Abongile. Is Lunga ready now? Well, I suspect those could be connection challenges. Do you have anyone on the WhatsApp, or should we take? Let's take the two first, Minister, whilst the WhatsApp is getting ready. Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister. The law, the Disaster Management Act, allows this to be initially 3 months, up to 3 months. And if it needs to be terminated early, it can be terminated early. But it also allows for the extension if there is still a need for it. So the initial period will be 3 months, and then an assessment will be made whether it's extended or not. The quantification, the province has of KZN has made some estimates, but I do not want to pronounce on those estimates right now because the teams, and as the president said, was engineers, quantity surveyors, all sorts of experts to go and do the quantification and the costing. So the definitive costing will be after that has been done. For now, what is being said is really approximates. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Any further hands before we go to WhatsApps? A written question by Lunga is on the chat. Can anyone read it? Can you unmute and read it? Can Jabu read? I'm told the Lunga has got a question on the chat.
Okay,
Can you read it, Jabu?
I will read, Minister. It's Peliswa. Lunga Simelani from Citizen. The Citizen is asking, how is it different from the Disaster Management Act for COVID-19?
Thank you very much. Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, do you want to respond to that one?
First, let me say that the disaster, the state of national disaster of COVID was occasioned by a health occurrence, which was the pandemic. And that's why health was also in a way leading us in terms of advising us where things are in terms of the pandemic. This is a national disaster which cuts across almost every sector. So this is a national disaster that is cutting across almost every sector. As you know, the infrastructure, if we take infrastructure, for instance, the water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, transport infrastructure, residential infrastructure, and so on. The humanitarian side, search and rescue. So it's different from the pandemic was a health issue. But this one is almost, as I say, cuts across almost everything. And it has the humanitarian side, which is very urgent because people need food, need shelter, need blankets, need mattresses. So that's the humanitarian side. And they also need to be moved as soon as it's possible to temporary accommodation housing before they can then be moved to permanent accommodation. Infrastructure, roads need to be repaired. So it's very different from the health pandemic. Unless you specifically want to specify your question, how is it different in which aspect? But it's very different from where we sit. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe one of the issues, I think you have explained the difference very usefully, Minister. Maybe one of the issues, maybe when the Minister comes back, which is also has specialization, is COVID would be dealing with the rampant infection control, rampant infection which had to be controlled. And then certain measures in line with that had to be put in place, which Minister says there's a distinction also in that element.
The pandemic was
yes,
also ongoing. It was an ongoing. This one, for now, it's a definitive occurrence that has happened. It's unlike the pandemic, which was a kind of ongoing.
Thanks, Minister. Thanks for that guidance. I see, is this Tau? Do you want to say something, Mr. Tau?
Yes, yes, thank you, Minister. I just wanted to add on the point that Minister has already highlighted, perhaps as an educational concern from our side as the National Disaster Management Center to members of the media so that they can assist us to communicate the thrust of the Disaster Management Act as it relates to all hazards. Indeed, our Minister has indicated that this relates to all risks that can prevail. We want to state that the Disaster Management Act applies to all hazards. And what is important is to underscore that hazards are divided or categorized into three: the hydrometeorological hazards, like your storms, your lightnings, lightning strikes, flooding, tornado, and so on and so forth. The Disaster Management Act applies to all those. The second category is the biological or epidemiological hazards. Your communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. The third category is geophysical or geological hazards. This relates to earthquakes, earth tremors, building collapse, sinkholes that we see in the West End and other areas. It also applies to what we call anthropogenic or human-made hazards, but it depends on whether those hazards are of security origin or not. So the NDMC or the disaster management function will provide support where matters relate to security-related hazards. So what happens is that every sector is supposed, or every sector department, province and municipality should have a disaster management plan that spells out how they are going to manage all those typologies of hazards in their areas of responsibility. Hence, when there is an outbreak of an epidemic, the Disaster Management Act will kick in to support the relevant legislation of those departments as well as their contingency arrangements. I thought that is an educational information that will empower our esteemed media colleagues. Thank you very much, Minister.
Education indeed, Dr. Tau. Thank you very much. Jabu, can you take us through on the WhatsApp questions?
Thanks, Minister. I have just quite a few WhatsApp questions here. The first one comes from Lil Whale, Prince from Network 24. says the President Ramaphosa announced last night that an oversight structure will be established to ensure all funds dispersed to this disaster are properly accounted for. Is it already established? Who will be part of this? I'm locked off.
Next. Thank you. Next, Jabu. Is it disconnected?
The next question, Minister, if I may assist.
Please do.
It's also from Netverb 24, Christian Duplessis. Christian Duplessis.
Thank you.
With regards to the current COVID-19 interim measures, which will lapse, is it a criminal offense to transgress them? And if not, does this mean that people may now just do as they please? Another question, Minister, is from Griffin Shear from the AFP. Regarding the troop deployment announced yesterday, when will these forces arrive on the ground in KZN? Or are some already part of the relief effort? And then the next one is from Sophie Mukwena, SABC. The minister spoke about international support. Can the minister share information on the kind of international support government has received? Can I continue, Minister?
Please do.
The next one is from Bali Tetani, Newsroom Africa. The president said rebuilding, reconstruction is expected to start this week. Is it clear how this will be carried out? Many people have lost their homes. How will those who lost their homes be assisted? How long will it take to have homes built for the displaced? The next one is from Anton Swart, ARD German TV. Have SANDF personnel been deployed in KZN already? Are they in effect working on the ground? If not, when will troop deployment begin? The last one, I think it has been posted on the chat already. The very first question that the Minister of COGTA responded to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that Teliswa?
Yes, Minister, it's Peliswa.
Oh, Peliswa, sorry. Minister, we picked up all those questions?
Yeah, most.
Thank you, Minister. Take the platform.
Except that the first one is yours.
Oh, on the oversight, let me deal with it at the end. Okay, all right. All right, yes. Minister, it's okay, all right.
The one question was about COVID-19. I think it's important for all of us South Africans to understand that we have a responsibility towards ourselves and towards our fellow South Africans, towards our families, colleagues, and therefore nobody has a right to do as they please. Because if you have to wear a mask indoors, in gatherings indoors, you have that responsibility. But we also have a collective responsibility, which means that if I see you not wearing a mask when you should be, I should be able to say, hey, colleague, can you please wear a mask? You're supposed to wear a mask. So I think to portray South Africans as people who can only do things if they are going to be criminalized would not be a good thing. So I think all of us must take that responsibility to look after ourselves, our families, our colleagues, and our fellow South Africans. And then I may have missed the second question.
Might be muted. If you can start on the question before this one. And the second thing is that, sorry, Minister, the second question, SAPC is requesting that if you can switch on your camera, SAPC.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister. Unmute and let the same. Thank you. I can see you now.
The host must not mute me. I don't know who's the host.
All right.
So should I start from the beginning? On the question of
not necessarily, Minister. Maybe I think it's the second question. You can go to you dealt with the first question. I think all of us could hear you, and your second question maybe that's where you can start.
Should I send this to you? It's on the. Should I send it to you?
The second question, I think I didn't get it very well. I'll go to the third question, and at the end, somebody can read the second question. The question on the international support. What has happened? Countries have written to us or spoken to us. When I say us, I mean government, whether DECO or ourselves, to say they would like to support. And can we send the things that we think they could help us on? Countries like Qatar, UAE, Algeria, and so on. So Japan, there are so many. There are quite a number of countries who have not necessarily received the support yet, but they've requested to know what is needed. On the building and reconstruction, of course, the president said, for instance, that people whose homes are partially destroyed, they may get vouchers for building material so that they can repair their homes instead of waiting for government to repair every home. So I think that's important because that will make them go back home sooner than if we have to wait for government to repair every home. So that I think the president did say that as well. But those whose homes are completely destroyed or washed away, first, they will move to the transit homes, which means the temporary homes. And the temporary homes, I think the building of those temporary homes should be starting as soon as possible so that they can be moved from the halls and from where they are, tents or whatever, wherever they are being sheltered in for now. That would be the first step for those whose homes are completely destroyed. And then they can move to those temporary shelters whilst permanent homes are first identification of the land for permanent homes, because most of those whose homes were washed away were in places where we shouldn't send them back. We shouldn't build in those places again. So identification of permanent residential areas whilst they are in the temporary areas. And that should start as soon as possible, but when you get the briefing from the ministers concerned, they can give you more precise information. And the SNDF, right from the beginning, part of SNDF came to the province. For instance, there are areas which were completely inaccessible. Like there's an area around Nanda Dam where people were really trapped in that area. The roads were impassable. So even the people who died there had to be airlifted. So the Defence Force had already sent some of their helicopters to actually assist in the airlifting, and they are there even now. They also have brought some of their tents, and so more of them will be coming. But they are already there. They came right at the beginning, and yeah, so more will come, but they are already there. Can you say what the second question was? I missed it.
The question, Minister, is from Christian Duplessis. Can somebody repeat it? It's about transgression. Can somebody repeat it?
With regards to the current COVID-19 interim measures which will lapse, is it a criminal offense to transgress them? And if not, does this mean that people may now just do as they please?
Or maybe I answered it when I was muted, because I did answer that one, but I'll repeat what I said. I said, first of all, as South Africans, we must take responsibility for our health, for our lives. We must take responsibility for our families. We must take responsibility for other South Africans. What does that mean? That means that if the regulation says, if you are indoors, for instance, I'm making an example, and you are in a meeting indoors, you are supposed to wear a mask, then you must take responsibility to wear a mask. And if you see somebody who's not wearing a mask, we must also take collective responsibility to say, colleague, you are supposed to be wearing a mask, please wear a mask. I don't think we should be a society where everything needs a policeman or a policewoman, where everything needs to be criminalized before it can happen. I think we must take that responsibility. We wouldn't be a responsible nation if we relied completely on everything that we are supposed to do to be criminalized or have a policeman, because we won't even have enough police to police every gathering. So I'm saying we must take responsibility. Each and every one of us must take a responsibility. It doesn't mean that we must do as we please. No, it means we must take responsibility. It means our health responsibilities must be in our hands, singularly and severally, which means individually and collectively we must take that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe on the first question of oversight, maybe one can put it this way. Already from within government, Treasury, which is finance, and the DPME in the presidency, together with the AG as assurance structure, seamlessly have already started working together in that regard. In other words, M&E framework and so on, it has been shared with the Disaster Management Center. And what the president said is that structures like labor, community-based organization, business, religious sector are expected to be part of the broader oversight movement. So it is in that context, but other structures which we are in control of, which is Treasury, DPME, and of course under AG on the other side, those structures are already at work. Any additional question on the website, on the WhatsApp? Thank you very much.
There's no more questions, Minister.
Thank you very much. It means the minister has dealt with them very well. Too clear to be asked other questions, to face other questions again. Dr. Tau, can you repeat the call numbers?
Thank you very much, Minister. The call numbers are as follows: 012 848 4704. The second one, 012 848 4705. Should I also repeat the email address?
Yes, please do the email address.
Okay, it's as follows. Nav Center at ndmc.gov.za. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What makes those numbers, if I'm talking to South Africans in general, very important is that in the process of intervention, we might be overlooking certain things. We are saying to the entire South Africa, the president said it, dealing with this development in KZN and the Eastern Cape, it's all hands on deck. All of us together we give a better capacity to turn this thing around. It means if there are issues that as government we're overlooking, even if it's corruption, those who you see are looting, criminality, or people who do not have access to water, those who are stuck somewhere, please use this number to keep in touch with government. Dr. Tau and the team in the disaster center will stay there 24 hours to receive you. Having said that, can I, on behalf of government, thank all of you media, thank all of those of you who have participated, and I must also thank the minister, in spite of the taxing schedule in Mangaung, that you are still available to actually address the country. Thank you very much. We look forward to interact with you. All of us are role players, media, everyone, civil society, labor, business, all of us colleagues. We need to intervene in this and work together to ensure that the situation of the people of KZN and the Eastern Cape is turned around and they live a normal life, pursue their economic ambitions, make sure that the ports are actually functioning so that the freight movement is interrupted in rather very limited way. Thank you very much. We can all adjourn. Thank you very much. That's the end of the press conference. Thanks, Mama. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the 4 members of the Fourth Estate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.